Welcome back to another episode of The Average Uninformed. It's Endgame time. So we're going to dive right into it this week because, ooh-wee, that's a lot of movie right there. So grab a drink, sit back, and enjoy.
I never played that one. Apparently that one was very good.
Those are the ones I played, and I had the most fun with those ones.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I played one episode of The Walking Dead because it was free. And I was like, nah, I don't need to do this again.
Okay. Well, speaking of free, Victor, I helped my grandmother move this past weekend.
She paid you?
Yes. No, she has to move to another home. And so it was actually in a medical facility. So there's other elderly people there.
Mm-hmm.
And so my brother and I, we get this big love seat. It's like one of those love seats where like the footrest is in the inside of it, and you like pop the lever and it pops out.
Oh, cool. It's like a lazy boy.
Yeah, like a lazy boy, but it's a love seat, right?
Yeah.
So it was really kind of heavy. Like it wasn't crazy heavy or anything like that, but it was heavy for a couch because it had a metal frame.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, she lived on the third floor. We get in the elevator and we're just holding it up because there's we're just gonna have to pick it up again in like 10 seconds. So we're just holding it up. Doors open and there's a bunch of people waiting to get on. And there's like the whole confusion of like, oh, there's someone in, they need to come out. Well, okay, well, that's which side, which way do you move? And you're just like, oh my gosh, just move so I can like keep moving. So anyway, we finally get away from the people and we're carrying it down the hallway. And I'm looking like my brother's going backwards. I'm going forward. And I look down and I see someone has closed my grandma's door. It's like, gotta get like, they closed the door on us. And he's just like, seriously? And so we get there and like, just put it down. And he's like, no. It's a lever handle. I can kick it open, I think. And so he rears back and kicks it open and goes flying open. And I get one glance in. It's the wrong room.
Did you get up on the wrong floor?
Yeah. Because all those people were hitting the elevator to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we got off on the wrong floor. So just imagine this elderly couple just sitting down to tea or whatever. And so the door just gets kicked in. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Anyway, we were going to talk about news this week, but Victor, I feel like we were going to eat up all of our time just talking about the movie. So you just want to get into the movie?
We can just jump right into it.
Yeah. Well, Victor, it's finally here. Mm-hmm. We went and saw Avengers Endgame last night.
Yep.
So do you want, I know we usually make the joke that we just give like short one sentence non-spoiler reviews, but do you want to do like maybe just 5 minutes of non-spoilers before we get into actually talking about the movie? Because this movie is on lockdown and a lot of people
haven't seen it yet.
Most people have seen it by Monday when this comes out, but
it's funny. Like usually do the movie review like halfway through the episode. You imagine someone just jumps in halfway. It's like, oh, I'll just go right to the movie review. Jumps in halfway.
I don't think we have consistent fans enough that someone would actually do that.
I like to think we do.
That someone listens enough to be like, I hate it when they talk about the news.
Well, this is for that person.
So,
non-spoiler review. What'd you think?
I thought it was pretty darn good.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe how I feel about it because it's really awesome. There's a lot of fan service in it, but it's like not like cheap fan service. You know what I mean? Like this movie, all the fan service feels earned.
As if they've built up 21 other movies.
Well, yeah, like there's certain moments, especially towards the end, like things happen where you go like, oh my goodness, that finally happened. Or, you know, that's such a nice moment. They finally paid that off or whatever, as being as vague as possible. But what did you think, Victor?
I don't know. I think it was like a perfect movie. Well, it's pretty darn close to a perfect movie.
Yeah. I mean,
with like the elements in here, like what they had to do and like put into it, what they had to tell story wise with all the characters that they had. Yeah. I think it was pretty perfect. Like there may be a couple of things I would change, but like I wouldn't tweak it that much.
As far as how I feel about the movie, I think it was exactly what I was hoping I would feel about it.
Yeah, that's exactly like it's everything you would want in this movie after seeing it, like Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly what you said. Like all that stuff that's happened, like it's mostly fan service, I feel like. But there's a reason for that stuff to be there, and there's a reason for that stuff to happen. So yeah, it does feel earned, and it has a place, and it's not just there. It's like, oh hey, this is for you guys.
Like it feels like the Russos and the writers and everyone else involved in the movie actually loves these characters, and it'd be like, wouldn't it be cool if we finally did this, or if this moment happened? Whereas other ones, it's like, I don't know, maybe put the cape up in the background. Fans will like that or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, I think, and the one thing that stands out, like this is a 3-hour movie, but like it's very rare that like a 3-hour movie doesn't feel like a 3-hour movie.
Mm-hmm.
And like, this is one of those movies because I think I would say about halfway through the third act, I was like, oh, like, is this actually like, are we in the end?
Yeah.
Now? Because it felt like maybe it's only been like an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Like it did not feel like 3 hours. And I kind of had the same thing too in the third act. You're just kind of like, oh, I guess we're almost done.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those movies that like, I can't pick out a scene where I would have cut that part out.
Yeah.
To like give more time for this person or give more time for this event. Like every scene almost needed to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And if it didn't need to be there, I'm glad it was there. So,
and unlike Infinity War, it's not like a breakneck pace throughout it. There's ebbs and flows as far as pacing. It's, you know, there's moments that happen that they take the time to let you feel that moment. And then there's other ones where it's, you know, and then the plot does accelerate and stuff like that. But then it slows down and speeds up.
It's funny how different of a movie this is from Infinity War though.
Yes. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
Tone's kind of different too. If you like kind of break it down, it's feels a little different in terms of tone.
Mm-hmm. It's more in line with the first Avengers as far as tone than Infinity War.
Kind of. Yeah. Well, the last bit of it definitely feels more like the old Avengers. And then like the first act definitely feels like it was transitioning from that Infinity War tone. Because it makes sense though, because they're coming out of that, right?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay. Do you want to get into spoilers now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So if you are listening and you have not watched the movie, this is your chance to get out now. This is your final warning.
Let's jump into it.
Let's do it. Yeah. So this movie starts off pretty much immediately after Infinity War. About maybe 20 days or so after.
Actually, the first scene takes place
during Infinity War.
Yeah.
Yeah. People were really freaked. So the opening scene is on Hawkeye's farm. He's teaching his daughter how to shoot arrows, and he turns around and she gets dusted, and then while he's looking for her, his family gets dusted behind him, and he never sees it, and they just kind of disappear.
You see the dust there, but I don't think he like.
Well, yeah. Why would like if someone suddenly disappeared and there's just like dust in the wind, you wouldn't put that together, right? Like that was for us to be like, oh, she's gone. You ain't gonna find her.
She's so dead. I guess they never confirmed if they were dead or not.
No, they did. Yeah, they never explained where they went or if they went to the Soul Stone. They kind of implied that maybe they would with the little moment that Thanos has at the end of Infinity War where he speaks to Gamora.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you hear a little bit about it later on with Peter, but I'll get to that part.
Yeah. Okay, but let's talk about our audience first, because we saw it with an opening night audience, and they were okay. They're not the worst opening night audience I've ever had.
I think we've had worse going to the first Avengers.
Yeah.
That one was.
Like, and I mean, I say worse because I just want to watch the movie. I understand that people are excited. It's not my place to tell people to not be excited, but there are levels of excitement where you need to realize that you're not in your home anymore.
Yeah.
And you're in public and other people around you are trying to watch the movie. But
like, it feels like I'm watching a movie with like a bunch of hype guys. And it's like everything that's awesome, I'm reminded again and again.
Yeah.
By their cheering, clapping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was one guy who was in particular who was sitting behind us where, like, I get it. There's exciting moments and you go like, oh, or whatever. But this guy, he would be like, and like he'd keep going as the moment is happening. Like, for example, okay, so towards the end, Cap picks up Mjolnir, which I was so excited about.
Yeah.
And as everyone was like, oh, yes. And then as he's fighting with Mjolnir, this guy is just like, he still has it. It's just like, we get it. You're excited. Yes, you are the biggest fan in here. We get it. Like, shut up and watch the movie.
With that being said, I love the guys next to us because they were just as excited, but like they were giggling to themselves when things like that were happening. It was kind of endearing. I don't know. It's like your inner child is coming out, but it's like,
yeah,
but it's not as obnoxious as like some of the people behind us.
No, and the other thing that slightly ticked me off is right at the beginning of the movie, the Hawkeye scene happened.
Yeah.
And then the girl who was sitting right next to me, she arrived.
Oh,
and so she came down and sat down beside me. And so she's getting all organized and stuff while the movie's going on. And it's so distracting because you're just trying to watch and pay attention, but she's getting herself all ready. And then her husband or her date or whoever, the guy who was sitting beside her, who was obviously there with her and came early, he leans over and starts explaining what happened in the Hawkeye scene. He's whispering, but it's not a whisper. You know, where it's like, okay, so what happened was Hawkeye was having a barbecue. And it's just like, she came late. That's her penance. She doesn't get to know what happened in the first scene. You can explain it to her after. I mean, even if that scene didn't happen, you would get it from context later on in the movie that Hawkeye lost his family.
Can you imagine just going down and you just see Hawkeye murdering people? What the hell?
Well, I mean, maybe I'm a smarter moviegoer, but I would be like, oh, something bad happened to him. Look at that haircut.
I had that haircut.
Yeah. So anyway, that scene goes from there, and then it goes to Tony and Nebula on the Benatar.
Wow. Yeah. I completely forgot about that part.
And that was cool because they don't show you that in the trailers because they haven't put the CGI on it yet. When he's leaving that message, he is totally emaciated.
Yeah.
He is like
scrawny,
skin and bones. Like
kinda
he's
gross.
Moments from death. Like.
It's kind of cool though, because like you remember all those like rumors. One of the things that people were saying that like it was supposed to be Rocket and some other Avengers figure out where Tony is, and they end up getting their ship and rescuing them that way. But it's actually Captain Marvel that finds them. But they never explain how she found them.
No, they never explain it.
Also, they didn't show that scene where
from the post credits from Captain Marvel,
the pager. That was kind of surprising.
Yeah, but I guess in retrospect, they didn't really need it, right?
Wouldn't you be questioning? It's like,
I guess so. If you hadn't seen Captain Marvel, you'd be like, who is that? Why is she here? How did she know to take him right to Avengers headquarters?
But again, I think 22 movies in, if you haven't realized now that these are movies in sequence, you're missing out.
And this movie, definitely more so than Infinity War, it felt like a universe movie. What I mean by that is like you feel like you're just living in the Marvel universe and these events are happening in there. Whereas other movies, they kind of feel just like this is their own little pocket. And like you don't feel like you're in the world per se. You know what I mean?
They don't show enough of it.
Yeah. Whereas like the other ones, this one and then the other two that I really think show that is Spider-Man Homecoming and Captain America Civil War. You just kind of feel like you're in the world where superheroes exist and these characters exist.
Is it because you see them in the context of like other pedestrians around?
Yeah. And you have people coming who are important characters and have plot lines that you know about and stuff, but they're basically a glorified extra. They come in for, 2 minutes and say what they need to say, and then they leave the movie or whatever. And so this movie felt more like that than Infinity War because like everything was still kind of secluded. Like there wasn't any scenes with extras in Infinity War. Anyway, yeah. So right away they go right after Thanos.
Yeah, that was unexpected.
Well, I was expecting it. So
well, for me it was unexpected. No, shut up, Josh. They figure out the plan he's on. They go there, basically take the glove from him. Turns out he had that time he used the stones was to blow the stones up or erase them.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty sad scene, actually.
Why is that?
I don't know. Like I kind of felt for Thanos a little bit.
Okay.
Because like he was on like the brink of death. Like using those stones twice, like really like messed him up.
Yeah, he looked gross. and then Thor just cuts his head off.
Yeah.
And everyone laughed at the line. I found it very tragic. He cuts Thanos' head off, and then Rocket goes like, "What did you do?" And he just goes, "I went for the head." Like everyone laughed in our theater, and I was like, "That's not funny. That's really sad." Like he's
been thinking about that for 23 days.
Yeah, like that he's ticked off, and now he knows he failed. He's too late.
But like, I don't know, just because like you spent all of Infinity War with Thanos. It's like, I understand your point.
Yeah.
Like not that I agree with it. Well, that's not true. I agree with it. But
what did you think of Thanos in this movie? Because that's not the only time we see him. No. Later on, he comes back from 2014, I think.
2014, yeah. I like Thanos a lot in Infinity War. And I think that was the goal for the Russo brothers. Like that was the goal of Infinity War, to kind of like make Thanos the main character.
Yes.
And this one, you don't really get any of that. You don't really get any of that sentiment. He almost feels like a generic Marvel villain.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Especially towards the end. I wasn't even listening to his monologues at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like he explained, I think he was saying something along the lines of like,
I can't even remember. You had the opportunity to move on and live with the opportunity that I gave you guys.
But you didn't. You went back. I don't remember what he said. But again, it was just like, well, he's monologuing.
And then he was saying something like, I don't usually take pride in this, but for your planet, I'm going to enjoy this.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. He became a kind of a generic villain.
I don't know. I guess that's fine. Really, the only time you saw Thanos was like the last few hours of the event. So like, it's not really much time in that sense to explore the character anymore.
And I mean, it's not about Thanos anymore.
No.
Right? Like it's about the aftermath. It's about dealing with the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he really just kind of became a roadblock for them.
Yeah. Like if Infinity War was Thanos' movie, Endgame is the Avengers movie.
Definitely. For sure. I just want to talk about Tony emaciated for a minute there, because there's that scene where he comes back after Captain Marvel has saved him.
Yeah.
And he comes down, and one of the first things he says to Cap was, "I lost the kid," which touched me, because I was like, oh, you really like Spider-Man.
He lost a bunch of other people too, but no, don't worry about those guys.
That frickin' idiot from Missouri. I liked that because there was the fallout from Civil War. That was the whole reason they were separated in Infinity War. I liked that it was still unresolved when we first see Tony and Cap together, and they have an argument where Tony just lays into him and says, "We lost because we weren't together.
Yeah,
it's your fault because you're a douche who just refused to sign, and
it's just paper, man. Just sign it."
Yeah, I really liked that scene. Like Robert Downey Jr. was great in that scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a sad scene. Basically, the first act is just sad.
Honestly, that's like an epilogue to Infinity War. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even consider it really like part of the movie. Like it is, but I just mean you could start it at the 5 years later part.
Yeah.
Without all of that.
The first thing we see 5 years later is Ant-Man gets released from the quantum realm.
Which was kind of dumb that it was just like a rat ran over the controls.
Yeah. That kind of bothered me a little bit, but it's like
it would be one thing if someone was just kind of messing with it, but it was just a rat walked over it.
You
like it was that easy. Buttons. Like no one had done that while they were moving the van. By the way, the van is in storage.
Yeah.
Now, and so he wakes up in a storage locker, but no one touched the controls while they're putting it in.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
still strange.
So he has no idea what happened.
Yeah.
And so he's just kind of running around and like seeing the effects of the snap. And so it's like there's garbage everywhere. It's 5 years. You'd think they would get some of it.
Well, that's kind of that was one of my nitpicks. Like I understand, like, all right, you know what? The whole world is very upset about the decimation. But it's like, so what? Did the entire world just stop working? If that was 2 years later, I'd be like, all right, I get it. 1 year for sure. But like 5?
Yeah, 5 years, there's just piles of garbage everywhere.
Yeah.
So he goes to see his daughter.
Yeah.
Actually, there's this little moment while he's walking. There's this kid on a bike and he goes, "Hey kid, what happened here?" And that, with just one look, that kid was so great.
Yeah.
He just has this moment where he kind of looks like what? And as he's looking, like his tears kind of well up, and then he just kind of like turns away angrily and like wipes his nose.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, that day part was awesome. Like who was that kid? He's going to go places. Especially because he's riding a bike, but I mean, that's a given.
I was going to skip that joke, leave that low-hanging fruit, but
it's okay. If you don't pick the low-hanging fruit, then someone else will. Anyway, so he goes and sees Cassie.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like this movie, there's so many great moments of acting in this, which is like amazing that it's in a Marvel movie. Not a Marvel movie, but like a superhero movie, which many people have written off as spectacle epics or whatever, You don't go there to cry when you watch these movies.
There's a pretty nice touching moment between Cassie, who is now 5 years older. I don't know, she's probably like, 16, 17?
One thing that does tick me off about that, doesn't tick me off, it's just a little too bad, is I really liked the actress who played the young Cassie.
Yeah.
Moving forward, they don't undo, like they don't go back in time and undo the 5 years that have happened. So not that we're stuck with this actress, but it just means we won't get to see the other young Cassie again, which is too bad because she was great.
Yeah.
Scott eventually just ends up going to Avengers headquarters and with an idea. He's thought about it because of his time displacement, because it was only 5 hours for him in the quantum realm.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been 5 years in the outside world. He wonders if you could reverse that and maybe go back in time to before Thanos.
Yeah.
And then they decide, well, we need to go talk to Tony because he would probably know how to figure this out.
Yeah. And this is the point where you kind of see he's not in like some fancy mansion. Like he's in like a pretty like modest home. Like I'd say
A cottage out on the lake.
Yeah. Like you see he has a daughter.
Who's super cute.
It's a pretty good life he's got going on there. Like he's basically retired.
Yeah. And he's a good dad. I really like Tony's life. And despite, what I said last week about how I hate it, how they give superheroes kids, but because again, that happened at the end of the movie. Tony's off fighting Thanos. Pepper just shows up in the rescue armor. I'm like, who is watching your daughter? Happy, maybe?
That would make the most sense, actually.
I would love it if in the middle of the fight, Tony and Pepper meet up. He's just like, who's watching Morgan? And then they just cut to Happy. And he's just like, hey, you want some cheeseburgers?
I like cheeseburgers.
And then they just cut back into the battle.
It'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, that's why I don't get to make these movies.
It'd be funny. It was just Captain Morgan. She's just sitting in the bathtub by herself. There's no one around.
It's in the bathroom with her. And then there's another cut and it's just an empty hallway and the door open to the bathroom. And you just hear, Mommy. Anyway.
We should make movies.
So anyway, Tony turns them down. He says, I've got a happy life now. I'm not going to help you go back in time. Time travel doesn't even exist. It's ridiculous. There's so many problems that can happen.
Well, he says like he's worried about like dying right away.
Yeah. Like there's no guarantee it would even work.
Yeah. He's like, you know what? It sucks that people are gone, but like, this is what I have now. Happy with it. Good luck to you guys.
But Tony can't ever put anything down. So that night, or maybe that night, I don't know.
It's
but
that night.
he starts thinking about it and he solves time travel by himself.
And what the hell?
He's a really smart guy, apparently.
That's one of my nitpicks. I feel like he got to that solution almost too quickly.
He was surprised he got there that quickly.
Yeah, actually he was. But like, come on. Make him struggle a little bit. It's time travel.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of things, Cap, Natasha, Scott, they go to find Bruce Banner.
Yeah.
The other smart guy. And we find out that he's mastered becoming Hulk and he's now just always Hulk, but he's smart Hulk.
Yeah. So he's figured out how to combine the best of both worlds. So he has Banner's brain, but Hulk's brawn, which I didn't like.
Yeah. Do you find him annoying?
Not annoying, but I never liked Professor Hulk in the comics. I find him and Joe Fixit one of the worst versions of the Hulk. And I think it was Peter David who invented him, which he did so many great Hulk stories. And so I hate to throw him under the bus like this, but I think it's a misunderstanding of what makes Hulk interesting to combine the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
Because at least the thing that had always drew me about the Hulk was that there was that give and take, and there was like the Hulk was the dark side and Banner was trying to prevent that from happening, but he was like the necessary evil. Evil in quotation marks, but I don't know. So he works in this movie fine. There's a lot of humor with his character, but
I would have liked to see Banner as Banner and Hulk as Hulk, because like there was never a time where we needed that combination. That combination wasn't necessary for this movie. Like, yeah, you know what? It was good that like it shows him progression in his character, but it didn't need to be in this movie.
Well, I wish there was more to, because I think in the comics there was times when he was Professor Hulk, but he had a shorter temper. So it was kind of like there was a mix of the two personalities together. But like Banner's was the stronger one, but occasionally like Hulk would flare up and he'd get mad over something small.
Oh yeah.
And that never happened in this. Like he was still Ragnarok Banner.
Yeah.
So he was very funny and
that humor is kind of translated to him and Thor a bit, eh?
Yeah, Thor I don't mind because he works a lot better as this dopey fish out of water who, even though he's been around for so long, still doesn't quite get it. And I mean, there's just something so funny about his arrogance that he never learns anybody's names. Like Banner, I don't know. That was never his personality, and he's just kind of become Mark Ruffalo as each movie has gone on. But anyway,
they talk to Banner about the idea of time travel, and like he straight up says like, this isn't my area of expertise.
Yeah.
They end up bringing him in anyway. They do some tests. Actually, the time travel in this movie.
Yeah, sorry, we buried the lead on that. There's time travel in this movie. Yeah. We were right about that.
Mm-hmm. It's a little different.
Well, okay. What I have noticed is there's 3 different types of time travel in movies. Mm-hmm. There's the Lost time travel, like the TV show Lost, where whatever happened, happened. So if you went back in the past to change your future, you had always gone back in the past. Maybe even you going back in the past led to your future happening.
Yeah.
The way it did.
So you going back in time is part of the timeline.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's the Back to the Future one where you can go back in time and change whatever you want, but it changes the future.
Yeah.
And then there's the Terminator one, which is, it's not exactly the same, but it's the most similar, where you can go back in time and change whatever, but that creates a new reality. Mm-hmm. And then that reality that you came from still exists.
Yeah.
But this one, maybe you fix the problem and you just keep living your life in that reality. But the reality where like the reason you went back in time still exists.
Yeah.
So that one is kind of the most similar to this one. They kind of made up their own rules.
Yeah. I think it's a mix of this, of the Terminator one you're talking about, and with Lost. We can talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, there's a few points that stick out, and it's like, oh, is it this one or is it that one? Which version is it? But
yeah, that is the weakest point of the movie, but it's not like it's not like it ruins the movie at all.
No.
Like it's more one of those things like while you're watching the movie, you're like, yep, I get it. And it's not till after you're kind of like, well,
is that really
what if, how does that work then? And then you start kind of unpacking it and asking more questions about it. But that's kind of the nature of time travel in movies. Like it's the same thing. Is it Looper, where Bruce Willis was like, we could start drawing diagrams and stuff like that and talking about time travel. What doesn't matter because this is what's happening. But yeah, they go back in time to get the Infinity Stones from different points in time.
Kind of cool because they break it down. Everyone's encountered the Infinity Stones at one point.
Yeah,
there's only so much PIM particles, so they basically only have one shot each to go back in time and come back. They break it down so the Space Stone, the Mind Stone are on Earth at the same time, right around the end of the event, the first Avengers movie where they capture Loki.
Yep, and the Time Stone is there too.
Oh yeah, Time Stone.
Because Banner goes to see the ancient one.
Yeah.
For me, who's a continuity nerd, there's just little lines in it where she's like, "Oh, you're looking for Doctor Strange? You're about 5 years too early." So I was like, "She said 5 years. What does that mean? Do the math. Someone write that down."
Yeah, I thought that. I was like, well, yeah, that sounds right. 2017. Anyway. And then the other two is the Reality Stone and the Power Stone.
Yeah, Reality Stone is on Asgard during Thor: The Dark World.
Yeah, and
the Power Stone, and they go after the Soul Stone at the same time.
Yeah,
and that's in 2014.
Yeah,
and they go to Morag,
which
is the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, with Quill dancing.
And then they go to Vormir, which is the planet where Thanos threw Gamora off a cliff.
Yeah. Oh, I want to talk about Thor.
Yeah, he got fat.
Yeah, he, I guess, living with himself after failing.
He let himself go.
He got so fat. Yeah, he reminds me of that character from Goldmember.
Are you talking about
Austin Powers?
Are you talking about Goldmember?
Not Gold. Dang.
So you're talking about?
Yeah.
So you said he reminds me of that character from that movie Goldmember.
Yeah.
What's his name? Oh yeah, Goldmember.
Is it?
Yes.
The Irish dude?
He's Dutch.
Dutch? Same shit.
You mean like that? I love gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Goldmember.
I'm so good.
Okay.
Yeah, he reminds me of that character from Goldmember. Like his fat suit wasn't convincing enough.
I wonder if it was CGI. Because when we first introduced to him, his shirt is off.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that was CGI fat, or if he had like some prosthetic and then they made it look like skin.
He's basically given up, but he has his long hair and like a long beard back, which is kind of funny.
They're really gross. It's a gross beard, and
he looks like Fat Thor is basically Chris Hemsworth dressed up as the dude from The Big Lebowski.
Yeah. Actually, Tony calls him Lebowski at one point.
Oh yeah, he does.
Well, okay, and the other thing too I kind of liked about it is that at least for the first part of the movie, no one wanted to be around him.
Yeah.
They brought him back and he's just like, oh, gross. Like he smells, he's fat, and
he's just a downer. Yeah, he uses Stormbreaker as a bottle opener at one point.
Yeah. My favorite part with him, like as far as funny part, was him explaining the ether to the rest of the Avengers. So basically, this is when they're planning their heist, and they're going through like, okay, who knows about the ether? Thor, you're the one who dealt with it. Can you explain it to us?
Yeah.
And so he goes up and he just has this like drunken lecture. And like the first thing he says is just like, earlier someone called it a stone. It's not really a stone. It's more like a sludge. So first things first, we're going to stop calling it a stone.
Unnecessary details.
Yes. He just goes through. Meanwhile, like he's like putting eye drops in and then like he almost starts crying at one point because he's just like, oh, my mom died. And I used to date Jane. Now we don't date anymore. He's just sad. He's just fat and sad. Anyway, yeah. So I really liked that until the end of the movie.
Yeah.
When he turns back into old Thor for the fight against Thanos.
He's still fat.
And he's just still fat. And he just looks...
His beard is gross.
He just looks... It's braided now, but it looks gross. And yeah, it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
Anywho, what were we talking about before that? Oh yeah, they go into the 3 different timelines.
2 different.
3. It's 2012, 2013, 2014.
2013.
That's the Thor Dark World one.
Oh, I forgot about Thor.
We just finished talking about it too.
For some reason, I just assumed they benched him.
Yeah,
but like he actually had a pretty. I'd say he probably had one of the best scenes of all the time traveling characters.
And that I was gonna say is that was my favorite like serious moment with him. It's he ends up going back to the events of Thor: The Dark World, and he runs into his mom, Frigga.
Like she like almost figured out right away that like
he's from the future.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got to be like 60 pounds heavier.
I like that he's like, I'm not from the future. I'm totally from the future. Just gives in right away.
But yeah, that was my favorite moment when he has a heart to heart with her.
Yeah, it's pretty touching.
Yeah.
And it gives him that big speech about being the man he is, not the man he's supposed to be.
Yeah. And then she tells him to eat a salad.
You know what?
Oh, and he gets Mjolnir back.
He's so excited. That little like gleeful like cheer he does.
That was also me. Because I remember, because in that moment I was like, oh, Cap's picking this up by the end of the movie. I'm so excited.
And then Cap, Iron Man, Ant-Man. They go to basically the end of Avengers 1.
Yes.
Tony he flies up to Stark Tower. Basically, the point he enters the room is the final group shot. Where they caught Loki and Hawkeye's aiming an arrow at the camera. Like that's the scene you see.
Yeah, but from a different angle.
Yeah.
And I really like that moment because Tony just kind of like turns around and he's just like, all right, we can stop posing now or whatever.
Yeah, he actually like comments on that. But it's funny because like that was such an epic moment in the first movie.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, that's a joke.
Because it's kind of funny because you get to see the rest of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just like, that's a good cutoff point. We'll skip ahead maybe a day and let's catch up with them. But then you just get to see it right after. It's just like, all right, put some cuffs on him. Mm-hmm. Book him, Dano. You guys want to get some shawarma? Like, yeah, that was a cool moment. I really like too. I noticed that they actually shot it like the first Avengers. Like all the lighting was really even and bright. Like not as cinematic as the other ones, which I like. Mm-hmm. And because the Avengers is probably one of my favorite Marvel movies.
That's fair.
I've seen it so many times and it was just a nice moment of glee. In this Avengers movie, I get to go back and enjoy the other Avenger movies that I love.
It's funny. We have a little moment with Cap being engaged by that timeline's Cap.
Oh, before that, there's the greatest fan service moment. So the strike team comes to take the scepter.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And so it's all the Hydra guys from Winter Soldier. They show up. It's Jasper Sitwell, Brock Rumlow. I think I've seen Winter Soldier a number of times. So I was like, yeah, that's all the same stuntman.
Yeah,
like
same dudes.
And they all get into an elevator, very reminiscent of the elevator scene in Winter Soldier.
But it's Cap, the one that enters last. But he goes into the same position in the middle of the group.
And he's like, listen, I need to take the scepter. And it's the same kind of tense moment where everyone's kind of looking around. You get close up of hands, kind of clicking holsters and stuff like that. And he just leans over to one of them and goes, "Hail Hydra." And they're like, "Oh yeah, take the scepter." Just such a great moment.
It's so easy for him. I love it.
And then he runs into the other Cap.
Yeah. And it's funny because like in the middle of their battle, 2012 Cap's like, I can do this all day.
Yeah.
And like I was just like, I know. I've said this line too many times in my life.
Oh man, yeah. Again, that's the Russos just giving you fan service, and they've earned it.
And it's funny because like those lines were never a joke, but now it's turned into a joke.
Yeah,
and I like that. Like the last time they used it is the time that it's turned into a joke, and it's not like it's just been ongoing to the point where people are tired of it, and that's why it's a joke.
Well, I'm not tired of it. I love that line, but anyway,
I can hear it all day.
There's a few cameos in here that I was surprised that they got. They got Robert Redford back as Alexander Pierce.
Why were you surprised by that one?
Because he's retired.
Yeah, it shows.
He announced he's done acting. And so the fact that they got him, like that was pretty cool. I never thought I would see him again.
Yeah.
And so anyway, there's a scene where Ant-Man sneaks into the 2012 Tony's arc reactor, and present Tony tells him how to short circuit it to give him a cardiac arrest or whatever.
Yeah.
And so while they do that while they're having an argument with Alexander Pierce, and then so that forces them to get the case. But at the last second, Tony runs into a door that the Hulk is opening.
Yeah.
And gets thrown across the room. And so they lose the Tesseract because the 2012 Loki just grabs it and takes off. So because of that, they lose the Tesseract. They have to go back to another time to find the Tesseract.
And they had to figure out when they had a Tesseract. And also at the same time,
Pym particles.
Pym was also working in that facility.
Yeah.
Which is, the facility was actually where Cap became Cap.
Yes, the one in New Jersey, the Camp Lehigh.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Man, don't test my knowledge.
I don't bother anymore.
I know this stuff. Another cool little Easter egg, where the new Asgard was, where Thor was. It's Tonsberg, Norway.
Yeah.
So that's the same city from the prologue of the first Thor when the ice giants are on Earth and Odin is fighting them. Okay. And it's also the same city where the Red Skull finds the Tesseract at the beginning of the first Avenger. But anyway, a little cool little Easter egg. But going back to where we were, so they go back to 1970.
Yeah.
Which is where we have our final Stan Lee cameo, which was fine.
Yeah, it was good. It's nice seeing him one more time.
Yeah. And Tony goes and finds the Tesseract in the vault. He runs into his dad. Has a nice heart-to-heart with him. And Cap, while looking for Pym particles, he has to sneak into an office and like to duck out from getting caught.
Yeah.
And he ends up accidentally going to Peggy's office, and he sees Peggy.
Yeah, and he has like a little moment where he's just kind of staring at her from the other room.
You know, in retrospect, there's like all sorts of clues leading up to what's going to happen to characters all throughout the movie. He mentions Peggy quite a bit in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't see it coming watching this until the end.
And it's the first Avengers movie where he pulls out his compass.
Yeah, with
World War II with Peggy's picture in it.
Anyway, meanwhile, Rhodey and Nebula have gone to Morag, and they sneak up on Quill, who's dancing through the opening of Guardians of the Galaxy.
He's got volume full blast on those headsets.
This is my favorite part of this movie, is the time travel elements to it are great, but the best parts are they show moments that were kind of iconic from other movies and just move them from a different perspective.
Yeah, just taking them out of context a little bit.
And you're just like, oh yeah, that's hilarious. And so for this moment, you've got Chris Pratt dancing and the music's full blast.
Yeah.
And they just cut to Rhodey watching him, and you just hear him like kind of singing off key to himself.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, oh, so he's an idiot.
Yeah, and then how they take him out, really literally just walks up to him, just punches him in the face.
and then they take the stone and leave. While all this is happening, Hawkeye and Black Widow are going to Vormir to get the Soul Stone.
I saw that and I was like, shit.
Yeah, same with me. As soon as they were just like, okay, well, we'll see you later. We're going to go to Vormir. I was like,
can you imagine
you two are going? I was just like, crap, one of you is dead. And so there's this really heartfelt moment on the top of Vormir, because as we learned in Infinity War, the rule is if you want the Soul Stone, you have to give up something you love. They're both like, well, whatever it takes. And so they're both trying to sacrifice themselves. And the other one is pushing them out of the way to try to do it. And Natasha ends up winning.
It's kind of cool. Like, I like that. I like that there was a reason for both of them to stay. Hawkeye's was like guilty about killing all those people, but Natasha wanted him to like see his family.
Yeah. And that was the thing I kept thinking was when Natasha ultimately won, I was just like, man, How much more can Hawkeye take? Like, he's only got so much hair left. Like, what is he gonna shave next? He's got a tattoo sleeve. He's gonna run out of skin eventually. Like, he can only tattoo himself so much. I mean, should hang out with Drax. That's what happened to Drax. He's bald. He's covered in tattoos.
He's just been losing people. Oh, I guess he lost his family.
Yeah.
But wait a minute.
He cannot handle his grief.
No way. Is there like is this how the transaction works? If you lose a family, you get a one-arm sleeve and you lose 60% of your hair.
Yeah. Then you lose your best friend.
Okay. And then what was that?
By all accounts, Thor should be bald and covered in tattoos as well.
He should just be black. He's
just black with ink.
He's just covered him with ink. He's tattooed his eyes too. He's got the black eyes. Have you seen that before?
Yeah, it's unsettling.
It is. It's weird. I mean, I guess you don't feel anything when you get it done, but it's like
you feel the looks.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so.
So they all come back because obviously because of time travel, they all come back like 10 seconds later and they all arrive at the same time. Yeah. And everyone's like, "Hey, we did it!" And Hawkeye's just like, "Oh gosh, the grief, it's too much." And he just falls to his knees.
This feels like a throwback episode in a TV show.
Yeah.
Because they're just going back through all these
greatest hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
I loved it. Yeah. I loved it.
And it's like, it's one of those, it's a fan service, right? It's taking you back to all these like great moments or like giving these characters these special moments. And it doesn't feel like just thrown in there for the sake of being there.
Yeah. It all makes sense. Time travel science doesn't make sense, but the time travel makes sense in the plot.
Yeah.
Why they decide to do it. Like it's their last option.
Actually, the ancient one getting the time stone, that was kind of interesting because Banner explains to her that situation for a little while. They're standing on that rooftop for a little while talking.
Yeah.
And she's so reluctant to give it to him. But as soon as he mentions at the end of the conversation, it's like, well, if you guys are so bent on protecting it, then why did Doctor Strange just give it away? She's like, wait, all right, well, if he just gave it away, then here you go, take it. There's a reason for him to do it because he's supposed to be the best of us.
Yeah, which I really liked.
Yeah.
Everyone has pieced that together from Infinity War. That this is all part of Strange's plan. But I like that they kept going back to it to remind you.
Yeah.
So from there, they put all the stones in a Stark gauntlet.
Tony's built a gauntlet to house the Infinity Stones.
So they decide that Banner is the one who is going to have to snap because he's the strongest of them.
And most of the radiation that comes off it is gamma, apparently.
Yeah. Which they set up in the first Avengers. That was the reason why they recruited
Banner. Yeah, they did.
When they were tracking the Tesseract. Anyway, so he snaps, completely destroys his arm, but it works. Everyone comes back.
Yeah.
Scott goes out and he sees birds flying around. And he's like, it worked. He's like, what? Was there half the amount of birds there a second ago? Like,
yeah, I thought I was like, I mean, I guess. Maybe it was just coincidence. It could be coincidence too that like you guys did the snap and a bunch of fucking birds flew in. Scott's an idiot.
But the other one that kind of confirms it is that Clint gets a call from his wife almost immediately after. And that was a nice moment.
Yeah. Where do you think these guys came back from? Do you think they just appeared where they disappeared?
Yes. Absolutely.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because the portals open at the end. Yeah. But anyway, by this point, the evil Nebula has let Thanos back to our present time. And so his ship, the Sanctuary 2, shows up and it blows up Avengers compound. And from there is the most epic fight that has ever been put on screen.
Is the most main characters in any movie.
Yeah.
It's like that last battle in Lord of the Rings, but if every faction was like
someone you cared about and spent 2 hours with. Yeah.
So like the compound's completely destroyed. The only ones that are available are Thor, Cap, and Iron Man.
Yeah, because Hulk, Rhodey, and Rocket
they're stuck under all the rubble.
And Hulk is holding it all up, which is it's actually a moment from Secret Wars. There's a moment in Secret Wars where something very similar happens where the bad guys blow up their base and they're like, haha, we got them. And there's like a mountain of rubble on top of them.
Yeah.
And Hulk is just holding it all up while everyone else is kind of cowering underneath it. So that was a nice callback to the comics.
I knew that. In the meantime, it's the big three taking on Thanos.
Yeah, man.
And I was so fucking pumped for this part.
Even though Thor's fat and sad.
Like this is the biggest moment of these characters' like careers. in the MCU. And it's like you wish them to be at their peak.
Yeah, like Cap's wearing his scale mail armor, which a lot of people wanted to see. He's got his shield back. Iron Man's wearing this armor that looks very reminiscent of the 60s.
Yeah. The color
Thor's fat. Yeah. He's fat and has a hobo beard.
But I mean, he has Mjolnir and Stormbreaker. There's a lot of cool moments here.
Yes.
Cap is kicking ass. Iron Man gets taken out pretty early on, actually.
Yes.
Gets knocked out.
And then there's a moment where Thanos has kicked Cap to the curb. He's fighting Thor and he's overpowered him. And Thor calls Stormbreaker and Thanos catches it out of the air. And he's pushing the axe down into his chest, just like at the end of Infinity War when it was the reverse.
Yeah. I thought it was a cool callback.
And then, Victor, you see Mjolnir being picked up.
It hits Thanos in the back of the head. And then it flies back and you see who it flies back to.
It's Cap.
Holy shit.
Oh, such a great moment.
That theater fucking lit up.
Yeah. People went nuts. That was when the guy behind us was like, ah, ah, ah.
And he's destroying Thanos with that like shield and hammer combo.
Yes, he is. One nitpick.
Yeah.
How is he shooting lightning out of it? As they explained it in Ragnarok, was that the hammer was just a conduit for Thor.
Mm-hmm.
That he was using it to channel lightning through himself.
Yeah.
But whatever. It looks awesome in the moment.
Did you see that callback combo attack that he from Age of Ultron?
Where he threw the shield and then threw the hammer and it made like the shockwave.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
That's a good little callback.
Yeah. Thanos, despite Cap wielding Mjolnir, gets the upper hand and he breaks Cap's shield in half and kicks him across the battlefields. And then Cap's about to stand up. And I was excited for you because I thought he was going to make that speech, you know, as long as one person stands up to you or whatever. Thanos calls down his army. And that's when he gives the speech you talked about where he's like, you know, I don't usually enjoy this, but I'm going to enjoy this a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's verbatim. That's what he says. He also calls him a douchebag. It's really out of character for Thanos to do that. But just leave me alone.
I can't tell you're joking. And then at that point, we get a Doctor Strange portal opening in the background.
And Falcon says another callback line on your left. And then we have Black Panther, Okoye, and Shuri walking out.
Mm-hmm. And it's just a bunch of portals. Like it's a shit ton of portals.
Well, that was the thing. Is one portal opens up and our audience lost it. Because they're like, oh my gosh, it's Black Panther. Black Panther's going to join the fight. And then more portals started opening up.
Yeah. And you then see the team from Titan.
They went nuts.
And like, remember that nitpick you said, like when they're on that Battle in Wakanda, Infinity War? Like, why can they didn't use the ships?
They used them this time.
Yep, no rhinos.
No rhinos.
That would have been hilarious to see.
They only have like 3.
Oh, I was another nitpick. How did Doctor Strange know all these guys need to be where they needed to be?
Victor, he looked into the future.
Okay, well,
he's Doctor Strange, Victor.
Right.
I mean, no matter what you say, the answer is he's Doctor Strange. And he looked into the future.
He's a sorcerer supreme. He knows shit. Because Wakanda, I get. Big deal, big army, whatever. But then like the Wasp.
She showed up with Ravagers.
What?
There was like 3 Ravagers.
I gotta watch that again when it comes on Blu-ray and just like pause at every portal. Because like I glossed over after like the third one.
I loved it too. The Wasp showed up. She kind of looked around like, where the heck am I? I was on a rooftop in San Francisco and now I'm here.
Yeah. So you find out from Spidey that like it's been 5 years for them, but like to the guys who got dusted, it's like a moment.
Yeah.
They were gone, then they came back. So can you imagine like all these guys that were dusted came away from that Infinity War battle? They're like, oh, I guess I'm going straight into another epic battle?
Maybe it's not even another one. They're just like, oh, is this continuing? We didn't lose. Okay. I must have got knocked out. Did you get knocked out too, Kimbe?
Man, I'm tired.
Actually, I feel well rested. Like, I feel like, not to be hyperbolic, but I feel like I've been sleeping for 5 years.
We got a pretty good moment with between Spider-Man and.
Well, wait, hold on.
Oh, all right.
We have to cover the most epic moment in this movie, which is all the portals come out and all these characters who died in the last movie show up. People went nuts when Spider-Man showed up and all these portals are opening. There's this giant army. They all align themselves. And Cap says,
Avengers, assemble.
Yeah, that's
exactly what he sounds like. I was hoping he would shout it and then like light up with Mjolnir.
nah.
Nah.
It worked. It worked.
He basically said it to himself.
Well, that's why Thor yelled immediately after. He's like, he's never led an army before. You know, you have to yell when you're going to start the charge. You can't just
do that again.
Yeah, so they fight.
Yeah. Oh my God, that wide shot between the two armies running towards each other, and then Giant Man in the background. That was so good.
And like Valkyrie on her flying horse, and like all these like Wakandan ships.
Pepper in her rescue armor shows up,
and Scott sucker punches a flying worm.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Oh man, and then
straight up punches them. No big deal.
So many great moments in this fight.
Every character from like every main character that was capable of fighting from the previous 21 movies is in this.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that makes it feel like a universe is like you have all these characters show up and you're like, look, it's Drax. Doesn't have a single line. You don't really even see him do anything, you know, and you just see these characters and they're just there for the fight. They're just an extra in the battle. So Hawkeye this entire time, when he fell when the compound was blown up, he fell right next to the gauntlet. He's been doing like keep away the entire time. He's been chased through by Outriders and stuff like that. So he ends up giving it to Spider-Man.
Yeah. And the goal is to kind of get it to Scott's van, which is basically where Thanos' army started.
Yeah.
So I can drop into the machine and shoot the stones back to where they came from.
Yeah. So Thanos can't get them. And so there's this moment where Thanos realizes he's losing. So he orders his ship to just start shooting at the ground. And then all of a sudden they stop and they start firing at the sky. They're like, what's that? And it's Captain Marvel, who has not been in this movie the entire time.
Yeah, she's, you know what? Totally okay with that.
Oh, me too. 100%.
Like, she is a huge powerhouse. I get that. So like I think they've run into the issue. It's like, oh shit, she's too powerful. She might make this movie a little bit too easy for the heroes.
Yeah. I didn't mind it. They just really heavily advertised that she was a huge part of this movie. And she was in the first 20 minutes and then the last like 15.
Yeah.
She has this killer haircut. I really like the short hair on her.
I'm not sure how I feel about it.
All right.
I'll have to wait. Because I think they shot this movie before they shot Captain Marvel.
They did.
So.
Anyway, so she comes down and she takes the gauntlet from, I think Spider-Man has it at this point.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we got to get it to that van. How are we going to get it through there? And then all the women fighters show up and they're like, we'll do it together. And they have a nice scene. It's a cool sequence. It's okay. It feels a little gimmicky, but.
Well, it's funny because like, well, she has help. And then they all show up and they all do their thing. But then Captain Marvel literally just fucking blasts through everyone. It's like, I don't think she needed your help.
I don't think she needed it. Thanos, at one point, he figures out their end game, that it's the van, and he throws his sword into it and destroys it. And he ends up getting the Infinity Gauntlet. And there's this last desperate moment of preventing him from snapping his fingers. And there's actually a really cool fight between him and Captain Marvel. There's a great moment where she's holding his hand open and he headbutts her and nothing happens. I love that moment.
Yeah.
And so there's a moment where Tony is seeing Thanos about to snap his fingers and he looks over at Strange and Strange just kind of gives him like a simple like one signal, like knowing like, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, you're right. And so Tony goes and grabs the gauntlet. He's trying to get it off of him and Thanos kicks him off. He goes to snap his fingers and nothing happens. So he turns his hand around. Tony has taken all the stones and puts it on his armor. And then Thanos says his stupid bad guy line of, I am inevitable.
In that voice, exactly.
Yeah.
You
like Kim
Jong-un.
Kim Jong-il from Team America. That's what I kept thinking every time he said inevitable. It is inevitable.
Oh no. Oh no. That's all I'm going to think about now.
Inevitable.
And then it cuts to Stark and he's got the Infinity like gems on his arm.
Yeah.
And he goes to snap it and he has this like, I don't know. I was expecting like a really, really epic line. And it kind of is.
You didn't think it was? Okay, go ahead. Say it.
It just seemed a little.
So Thanos says, I am inevitable. And then Iron Man says,
I am Iron Man.
Well, he doesn't say it like that.
I am Iron Man. I am Iron Man.
He says it as a response. He just doesn't say it like, I'm Iron Man.
I haven't remember what he said. That's all I remember.
So anyway, he says, and I am Iron Man. And he snaps his fingers and all of Thanos' troops turn to dust.
And we get a little moment where Thanos kind of like realizes what's going on. So he walks off. Actually, the shot where of him sitting down before he gets dusted is, I'm pretty sure, the same angle and shot of him on his farm at the end of Infinity War.
It was too much for Tony. And so he's dying.
Yeah. He doesn't even get a line out.
No. I feel like that moment was supposed to mean more to me. It didn't really that much. I kind of saw it coming, and because like he had severe burns, and all I kept thinking when I saw him fall down, I was like, no, it's going to be a closed casket.
Damn.
But anyway, Peter shows up and he's like, Mr. Stark, it's okay. We won, Mr. Stark. Mr.
And then
Stark.
Pepper like basically is like, yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of
she's
here.
like pulling him away.
Yeah.
That in that moment, I was just like, come on, man. That's his wife. Like, give him some room. I know you really likes the guy, but come on. Get out of the way.
I was a little sad that Cap and Thor weren't there to kind of say anything.
Well, they were there.
No, they were in the background, but like,
they didn't have a moment with him or anything. But yeah, then he dies.
Yeah.
You were expecting that though, right? I thought for sure Tony was going to live.
I was, it's gotta be one of those two. It's gotta be Stark or Cap. And I think at that point I was like, this makes sense.
Yeah. They just kind of, looking back at it in respect, there are clues there. Like he has a conversation early on with Pepper when he says, I figured out time travel. And he's like, well, I could just not do it. And she's like, you can't not do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of his major flaw. He always has to fix it. Right. So like he would never actually quit. Anyway, so Tony dies. There's a nice funeral scene, and it pretty much just has everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there is even some cameos there.
Yeah.
There was the kid who played Harley from Iron Man 3.
I was so confused on who that was. I
think most people were, because he looks nothing like the 13-year-old he was. He's like 8 feet tall now.
Yeah.
There were some people that were there that was kind of like, why are they there? Like the Pyms, like Hank and Janet Pym. Like I get it because it's like everybody's here, but
I guess because Scott was there.
Like I get Hope showing up because it's like, okay, I'll go with you to this funeral because I'm your girlfriend. Secretary Ross was there.
Oh, I missed him.
He was at the end with Maria Hill.
I missed her too.
The Maria Hill makes sense. She worked for him, and Nick Fury was the last one. That was the only time he was in the movie the whole time.
What is he gonna do? He's gonna shoot a few dudes.
Yeah. And then the one moment where I actually cried in the movie, there's tons of moments in this movie where it's very easy to cry, but the one moment I cried was after the funeral. Happy Hogan is sitting with Morgan Stark, Tony's daughter, and they're just having a conversation. He goes, hey, how you doing? You doing good? She's like, yeah. You hungry? Yeah. What do you want? Cheeseburgers. And then Happy has this moment where he thinks back about Tony.
Yeah.
And it's so quick. But it's just like a moment of just like, oh, Tony. And like you see it in his face for half a second, and then he like composes himself. I lost it for that moment. But it's just like, yeah, I get that. And then he even says it. He's like, Tony liked cheeseburgers too.
Yeah. I guess it's a callback to that time after he calls that press conference after getting back from the desert.
Exactly.
Yeah. Actually, my moment was when Peter comes back after Hulk snaps his fingers. Him and Tony have a moment. And Tony just hugs him. I was like,
yeah, that was a sweet moment too.
Dang it. Who's cutting onions in here?
It's fine. I'm just making a lasagna.
I'm not crying. It's raining.
I just bit into a pepper. Yeah. And then there's some wrap up after that. Thor gives Asgard to Valkyrie. And then he's going to join the Guardians of the Galaxy.
As Guardians of the Galaxy?
As Guardians of the Galaxy. And there's this great scene between them. It's probably one of my favorite, again, Thor comedic moments in it, where he and Quill are having an argument over who is the actual leader. And Thor is being like the polite one of, of course, you're the leader.
Yeah.
But he keeps giving looks like, but I'm really the leader. I love that scene. And then the final sequence is Cap is going to go take the stones back to where he got them. because that was one of the caveats of the Ancient One giving the stone to Bruce,
that he would bring it back.
He would bring it back to the moment they got taken away, so that the reality they took it from would not be screwed up.
Yeah, but how did he get into space?
Not only how does he get in space, but all the stones, they don't have their casing on them anymore. So like the Power Stone doesn't have the orb anymore. The Space Stone doesn't have the Tesseract around it.
He just puts in like a blue box. Nobody's going to know.
No one will know.
The guy picks up the box, just rattles around inside.
So there was that part of it. I mean, again, it's one of those things, you're not concentrating on that in the moment. You're enjoying the film at that point. It's not one of those things that like sticks out like a sore thumb and you're just like, well, this scene is ruined.
Yeah.
It's only till after you kind of go, well, wait a second.
And I was also hoping that like, I mean, I know we wouldn't have seen it, but like that interaction between him and the Red Skull.
Oh yeah. I guess if he went back to Vormir to give the Soul Stone, he would have met the Red Skull.
Yeah.
Unless the Red Skull just took off because he's like, well, my job here is done.
Just floats off into the atmosphere.
And then he sees him. He's like, Captain America, I'm a great fan of your films. That would be the extended epilogue that I would love to see. Just over the credits as the credits are going, him taking all the stones back and just like the hijinks ensue. Anyway, so he goes and he says he has an extended goodbye with Bucky.
Yeah. Which was, I thought was a little bit weird because it's like
Bucky knew it was up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, like really it might take as long, like they said, like how long is it going to take? Well, for Steve, as long as it takes. But for us, maybe like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
5 seconds.
Yeah. And so anyway, they send him back.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't show up in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
They go, well, where'd he go? And he's like, well, get him back. And then all of a sudden they're like, is that old guy just been sitting here this entire time? Yeah. And so Sam goes over and talks to him and it's Steve.
Yeah.
And he's been waiting there for 70 years for him. No.
He's gotten all comfy. He's got his like slippers on.
Yeah.
The old guy special effects on him looked really good.
They were amazing.
It looked like Clint Eastwood a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Well, to me, it looked exactly what Chris Evans would look like as an old man.
Well, I guess we'll get to see.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, unless he dies in a horrific car accident.
Or if we die first. Shit.
Yeah. Anyway.
This is kind of like the time traveling loop we're a little bit stuck at.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, the point was, I don't know if we explained that, but he went back. And instead of coming back when he was supposed to, he decided to go
and live his life with
Peggy.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet, but it brings up lots of questions.
Yeah. So like at one point, was there both Caps? Like was there old Cap and
yeah.
So like him going back in time was always part of his future. Basically what we're saying.
Maybe. The other thing too is like, was he always the husband?
Because you never see anything about the husband. Because I looked that up later. You never see any photos of her husband.
But anyway, so there's that aspect of it. And then, so you're telling me that Cap, he just sat through all these events in his life? Like he would have lived through the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. He would have lived through Nixon resigning. He would have lived through 9/11.
Screw that. He would have lived through Hydra.
He would know the day that Howard Stark was murdered by Bucky.
I guess if he went back, I'm assuming he would have known like, all right, I can't change anything.
Yeah, except for Peggy's life. So he goes back knowingly that he made out with his great niece.
Nice.
Like he would be around when that niece would be born and he'd be like, I'm going to make out with her someday. Or I already did.
You already did.
Oh, that's weird. They're always so awkward around each other. Because she's just like, tell me about the war, Uncle Steve. And he's like, please don't talk to me. So, okay, the whole thing with time travel, they managed to save Gamora from her fate with the Soul Stone. They went back and got an earlier version. Now she's running around our present.
Yeah, it's probably fucking up their timeline a little bit.
Why can't they do that to save Natasha?
Not really saving. You're more or less just pulling them from another timeline. If anything, you're losing Natasha from another timeline. So it's like the same effect.
Oh, okay. Actually, you know what? That's a good explanation.
Yeah.
That changes my mind on it because they could do that with Gamora because in that timeline, she never has to go and sacrifice herself.
No.
Or not sacrifice. She never has to be thrown off that cliff because Thanos never gets the stone in that timeline.
Yeah. Now the Red Skull just holds onto that Soul Stone because
Okay, that actually explains it for me.
Okay.
You have solved it.
Nice.
That was one of the more convincing young person acting as an old person that I've ever seen. And it helps that the CGI was amazing on it as well. But
even better if it wasn't CGI. If it was like actual makeup, but then they just use CGI to like thin him out a little bit.
Like I have no idea because no one knew that the scene was coming. But the way they did it with Peggy in Winter Soldier was they filmed Haley Atwell doing the scene, and then they filmed an actual old person doing the scene, and then they combined her face with the old person's face.
Yeah, that's hard for me to picture, but
I think they just took like the main expressions and then like they get like the really thin neck with the extra skin and stuff. Anyway, but like Cap just had like these great mannerisms. That's like, yeah, that's an old guy mannerism, like, or like just the way that he just kind of barely moved his mouth while he talked, and I really like that a lot.
But Cap hands off his shield to
Sam.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? Because it was either him or Bucky.
Yeah, and like Bucky kind of nudged him that way, so like I think he knew. I think he was basically saying like, all right, he's gonna give that shield to you, and I'm okay with that.
You think he knew, like going into the conversation, that he was gonna pass it off?
Yeah. I mean, he's like right there. The shield's right there, right? So
I guess that's true.
To him. Like that's why he urged Sam to go first and talk to him. Because Bucky, you don't see an interaction between him and Bucky.
That's true, and he did say his goodbye about 10 seconds earlier, right? I personally am more okay. Like I prefer Sam over Bucky having the shield.
Yeah.
Because Bucky is kind of like he's already had his redemption arc, and it's more interesting for Sam to be like, I got to live up to this name, than it is for Bucky, I think.
No, I agree. Also, in that final battle, did you notice Sam stabbed a dude with his wings?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was like, holy shit. He stabbed a dude with his wings.
He did it twice, too. Yeah. Like he took it, like he flew into him, knocked him on his back, pulled him out, went back for more.
That was a big holy shit moment.
Where you're just like, Falcon's awesome.
He straight up killed that thing. Anyways, that pretty much wraps up the movie. It's a nice little ending for like Tony's character and Captain Rogers. This is like the only Marvel movie without a end credit scene.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that little touch. I don't think we need an end cut scene for this movie.
No. And that's the thing, is this movie does a great job of culminating what we've seen so far and kind of putting a bow on it, that if they went out of business tomorrow and never made another Marvel movie, it would be fine.
Oh yeah.
Like I would feel satisfied, but as it stands, we're going to get more. That's exciting. There were some cameos in this one that there was tons and tons of cameos, but there was like a few that I was like, oh, I never thought we'd see that guy again. Or like Jane Foster was one. Yeah. Alexander Pierce, I think I said.
Yeah, you mentioned him.
But the other one was Jarvis.
Oh yeah, from the Peggy Carter series.
Yeah. And that's like the only TV character who has ever crossed over.
We didn't even see Coulson.
No.
What the hell?
I don't give a crap about Coulson.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, he's fine. So yeah, that was interesting, but it makes sense, like, of all the shows, because the two writers of this movie created the Peggy Carter series. So it makes sense for them to be like, oh, we'll put a character we created.
Yeah. Suck it, the rest of you.
The thing I really liked about this movie is that there's like little line callbacks all the time. Like we talked about the one where like I can do this all day, but there was ones like Black Panther calls Hawkeye Clint. Remember that there was that whole moment between them in Civil War where he's like, we haven't met yet. I'm Clint. He's like, I don't care. So just like, he called him Clint. Like he remembered. I liked that. The cheeseburgers one we talked about, taking all the stupid with you. That was between Bucky and Cap. That was a nice callback.
Yeah. It's funny. I think that line came out. It's like, he's going to be gone for 5 seconds. Why are you guys doing this?
Yeah.
Oh,
he's not coming back. And then the other one I really liked is Wasp at one point says, "We're on it, Cap." And she kind of shares a look with Scott because she made fun of him in Ant-Man and the Wasp for calling him Cap. I was just like, she called him Cap. No Vision in this movie.
Makes sense.
Kind of seems like an extra thing now I think about it, but I think that's all I wanted to say about this awesome movie, Victor.
Yeah.
Do you have any other thoughts? Any nitpicks? Any
honestly
moments that tickled your fancy?
I want to watch it again, but like it's so hard for me to sit down for a 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
No matter how awesome it is. Like I probably will manage to do it again when it comes on Blu-ray, but like I don't know. I really love this movie. I haven't bought any Blu-ray movies in a while.
Yeah.
I think the last one was probably Age of Ultron.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's been a while.
There's so many better movies since then.
Yeah. You gonna get it? Of course you are.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. Although every movie I've said I'll probably get on Blu-ray on this podcast, I have not gotten.
A liar.
But no, I will absolutely get this. Faux show.
Should you wrap it up there?
Let's do it. Wrap it up, Victor. Put a bow on it.
Oh, it's just first. You have to edit this out. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna leave it in.
It's a really comfortable chair.
It's not bad,
fault.
right?
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening, guys. Hope you've enjoyed this long review for 22nd movie in Marvel's cinematic universe. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the movie too. I'm hoping you guys watched it before you listen to this review. If you have any comments, leave them in the comments. If you want to get in touch with us directly, you can email us at averageuninformed@gmail.com. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.